edition of News Today, a series in which we discuss and briefly analyze the important news of the day. Let's have a look at today's main headlines. The Loss and Damage Fund cleared on day 1 of the COP28 summit of the UNFCCC. Centre approves Rs 1,658 crores recovery and reconstruction plan for Joshimath. The Supreme Court refrains from staying amendments under the Forest Conservation Amendment Act of 2023. Sri Lanka agrees on debt restructuring with creditor nations. A report titled Unlocking the Web3 Potential has been released by Primus Partners. The ILO releases a report titled A Call for Safer and Healthier Working Environments. Starting with the first news, the Loss and Damage Fund was cleared on day 1 of the COP28 summit of the UNFCCC. The UN Framework Convention on Climate Change or UNFCCC is a multilateral treaty adopted in 1992 to measure progress and negotiate multilateral responses to climate change. It entered into force in the year 1994. Currently, 198 countries have ratified the convention, reflecting its near universal membership. These countries are called parties to the convention. This year's COP, that is COP28, is being hosted by the UAE. Now first let's understand what the term loss and damage means. Loss and damage refers to the negative consequences arising from the unavoidable risks of climate change like rising sea levels, prolonged heat waves, species extinction, and crop failures. Coming back to the news, the Loss and Damage Fund, which was first announced during the COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt in the year 2022, is meant to compensate countries already dealing with climate change. The fund will be based at the World Bank but managed by an independent secretariat. Several countries including UAE, Germany, UK and Japan have already pledged money to the fund. However, providing compensation for loss and damage can be challenging due to factors like absence of mutually agreed upon definition to categorize loss and damage activities that overlap with humanitarian support, poor data availability and processes for systematically collecting, recording and reporting information on loss and damage, and low technical capacity, especially in developing countries, to scientifically model loss and damage. What is worth noting is that a Warsaw International Mechanism for Loss and Damage was also established at COP19 in 2013 in Warsaw, Poland, to address loss and damage associated with climate change in developing countries. The functions of the mechanism are to enhance knowledge and understanding of comprehensive risk management approaches and enhance action and support, including finance, technology, and capacity building to address loss and damage.
Recently, the Centre has approved Rs 1,658 crore for recovery and reconstruction plan for Joshimath in Uttarakhand. The recovery and reconstruction plan aims to recover Joshimath affected by a landslide and ground subsidence. It involves Rs 1,080 crores in central assistance from the National Disaster Response Fund's recovery and reconstruction window, with the state government providing the remaining funds. The recovery plan would be implemented in 3 years, following the best practices, Build Back Better principles and sustainability initiatives. Coming to the Build Back Better principle, it is a post-disaster recovery approach aimed at reducing future vulnerability. It emphasizes using reconstruction to improve community resilience. A central aspect of the principle is a people-centered recovery that enhances well-being and inclusivity and reduces inequality. It is one of the 4 priority actions under the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. The other 3 are understanding disaster risk, strengthening disaster risk governance, investing in disaster reduction for resilience. Now coming to the Joshimath landslide disaster. Joshimath is a hilly town located in the Chamoli district of Uttarakhand. It falls in the high-risk seismic zone 5. 9 technical reports of central government institutions on Joshimath attributed the incident to location on a slope over morainic deposits or loose sediments, population pressure and resulting construction of multi-story buildings, absence of a system for proper disposal of water coming from the upper reaches.
Moving on, the Supreme Court refrained from staying amendments under the Forest Conservation Amendment Act 2023. The decision was taken on a petition that said that the act represents a complete dereliction of duty imposed on the state to protect and improve the environment. The Forest Conservation Amendment Act 2023 will take effect from December 1. First, let's take a look at key highlights of the amendment. The amendment specifies two types of land that will be under the purview of the Act. Land declared as forest under Indian Forest Act of 1927 or under any other law, and land that was notified as forest in the government record after 1980. The Act will not be applicable for land converted to non-forest use before December 12, 1996. The amendment exempts linear infrastructure projects like roads and highways from seeking forest clearances permissions if they are located within 100 kilometers of the national border. Further, it allows non-forest activities on forest lands like running zoos and eco-tourism facilities. Now the question is, what concerns have been raised regarding the amendment? It is being said that the amendment stands in contrast to Godvarman Thirumal Pad judgment of 1996, where the Supreme Court ruled that the Forest Conservation Act would apply to all land parcels that were either recorded as forest or resembled the dictionary meaning of forest. Areas that now stand to be affected due to the amendment include about 40% of the Aravalli range. Also, exempting land near border areas may adversely impact forest cover and wildlife in northeastern states. In another news, Sri Lanka agreed on debt restructuring with creditor nations. The Official Creditor Committee and Sri Lanka agreed on the main parameters of a debt treatment consistent with those of the Extended Fund Facility arrangement between Sri Lanka and the International Monetary Fund or IMF. The objectives of the Extended Fund Facility supported program are to restore macroeconomic stability and debt sustainability, safeguard financial stability, and step up structural reforms to unlock Sri Lanka's growth potential. Coming back to the news, let's take a look at the background of the agreement. Earlier in March, the IMF agreed to a $2.9 billion bailout package for Sri Lanka, releasing the first payment shortly thereafter. For the second bailout installment, Sri Lanka needed financial assurances from its bilateral creditors. Subsequently, major lenders formed the Official Creditor Committee or OCC. The OCC includes India and Hungary in addition to Paris Club creditors. China, Sri Lanka's largest bilateral creditor, has opted to stay out of the OCC but has attended the meetings as an observer. The committee is co-chaired by India, Japan, and France, which is the chair of the Paris Club. The Paris Club, formed in 1956, is an informal group of official creditors whose role is to find coordinated and sustainable solutions to the payment difficulties experienced by borrower countries. India is not a member of the club. Notably, India has been taking several other initiatives to help out Sri Lanka. India has extended nearly $4 billion in food and financial assistance to Colombo, including currency swaps and credit lines. India was the first country to hand over its letter of support for financing and debt restructuring of Sri Lanka to the IMF. India also dispatched several shipments of essentials such as fuel, food, and fertilizer to its neighbor.
The next news. Recently, a report titled Unlocking the Web3 Potential has been released by Primus Partners. Web3 is described as future of the internet, and it includes cryptocurrencies, non-fungible tokens, decentralized autonomous organizations or DAOs, and more. It provides a version of the web where users have a financial stake and more control over the web communities they belong to. Now coming to the previous two versions, Web 1 and Web 2. Web 1, also called the static web, enabled easy access to information. Web 2, built on advancements in web technologies, enabled interactive platforms, e.g. Facebook, etc. Let's briefly discuss the key findings of the report. In 2022, India held 11% of the global Web3 developer pool, ranked third worldwide. Web3 sector is projected to create 2.2 million direct jobs in India in the next decade. Coming to the application of Web3, in decentralized finance, it can open access to financial services without intermediaries. In asset tokenization, it can convert physical or digital assets into digital tokens, offering fractional ownership, liquidity, etc. In digital identity and ownership, it can be used in securing maintenance of ownership of digital identity. In metaverse, it can create an immersive, interconnected virtual experience. There are a few challenges, like high tax rate, lack of ease of doing business, and fragmented regulatory approaches. Now coming to a few recommendations in that direction. Recognizing Web3 as a separate vertical under Startup India. Global emphasis on coordinated monitoring and enforcement. Identify primary regulator and define licensing and registration requirements. Establish regulatory sandboxes, etc. Coming to the next news. The ILO, or the International Labour Organization, has released a report titled A Call for Safer and Healthier Working Environments. The ILO is the only tripartite UN agency with government, employer, and worker representatives. It encourages decent employment opportunities and work-related issues. Now let's go through the key highlights of the report. In 2019, work-related deaths rose to 2.93 million, a 12% increase from 2000. Majority of work-related deaths are caused by circulatory and respiratory diseases. Exposure to long working hours, like more than 55 hours per week, causes most deaths among occupational risk factors. A few challenges highlighted in the report include changes in worker demographics such as age, gender, and migration do impact occupational safety. Over 2 billion people, that is 60% of the global workforce, work in the informal economy, lacking adequate legal and social protection. The report also highlights ILO's Safety Plus Health for All program, a key vehicle for delivering ILO's Occupational Safety and Health, or OSH agenda. Let's briefly discuss the new global strategy on OSH adopted by ILO governing body. Well, it aims to promote and realize the fundamental right to a safety and healthy working environment worldwide. It identifies 3 pillars, which are improving national OSH frameworks, integrate OSH into national policies and adopt whole-of-government approaches to OSH, enhancing workplace OSH management systems. Coming to the Safety Plus Health for All initiative of the ILO, it was launched in 2015, which focuses on prevention to promote a safe and healthy working environment, which is a fundamental principle and right at work. Vision Zero Fund, a G7 initiative and later endorsed by the G20 in 2017, is an integral part of Safety Plus Health for All. The personality in the news for today is Henry Kissinger. Recently, Henry Kissinger, a dominant US diplomat of the Cold War era, died at the age of 100. Let's briefly discuss his contributions in the field of diplomacy. He negotiated America's exit from the Vietnam War, winning a Nobel Peace Prize for the same. He was involved in detente negotiations with Soviet leaders. He played a role in laying the groundwork for the US to establish full diplomatic relations with China. In India, Henry Kissinger is remembered for his role in supporting Pakistan during the Bangladesh War of 1971. 2 important books written by him are World Order in 2014 and On China in 2011. He exhibited values like statesmanship and realpolitik.
As we conclude today's main news, let's go through some quick updates. Recently, Election Commission of India rescheduled the timeline for publication of exit polls for the general elections to the legislative assemblies. An exit poll is a poll of voters taken immediately after they have exited polling stations. Guidelines for conduct and publication of exit poll results are issued by the Election Commission of India under Article 324 and Section 126A of the Representation of People Act of 1951. The maiden edition of the high-level virtual interaction Mahasagar or Maritime Heads for Active Security and Growth for All in the region was hosted by the Indian Navy. The interaction took place between maritime heads for active security and growth for all in the region. It was attended by the representatives of Indian Ocean region littorals. Nagarjuna Sagar is the largest and highest masonry dam in the world. The dam, located in the river Krishna in Nalgonda district, Telangana, is the multi-purpose irrigation and hydroelectric project termed as one of the modern temples of India. Avoidable Deaths Network experts have set up a hub in an Odisha village to look into life-saving solutions for snake bites. The network is a global membership network dedicated to avoiding human deaths from natural hazards. In India, over 50,000 people die from snake bites annually. Astronomers detect a circumstellar disk around a star in the Large Magellanic Cloud. Newborn stars with circumstellar disk had been observed by astronomers only in the Milky Way galaxy until now. Stars form from dust and gas. After a star is formed, the remaining dust and gas are trapped in orbit, forming a rotating disk around the young star, known as circumstellar disk. 6 sub-Neptune planets were discovered and found in a rare condition called orbital resonance, which happens when orbiting objects have orbits in a simple numerical ratio, creating a regular repeating pattern. Sub-Neptunes are planets with radii between that of Earth and Neptune. They are found in close-in orbits around more than half of all Sun-like stars. Indian Navy will conduct operational demonstration covering naval operations by the ships and aircraft at Sindhu-Durg Fort. Sindhu-Durg Fort is a historical fort that occupies an islet in Arabian Sea off the coast of Malvan town, Maharashtra. It was built by Maratha ruler Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Irish novelist Paul Lynch won the Booker Prize in 2023 for his fifth novel Prophet Song. The Booker Prize, founded in 1969, is open to English language novels from any country that have been published in Britain and Ireland. Before we go, it's time to put your knowledge to the test in today's segment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this edition of News Today. To get the answers to today's quiz and to download the PDF of News Today, make sure to check out the links in the description below.